Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Today's lesson is actually a video on a lecture that we had in the previous class where we created a logo badge. And the demonstration was to use an Illustrator template and to create a unique logo badge from that template where we're taking pieces of that template, basically the skeletal structure of that template. We're eliminating and deleting a lot of the information that was on that template, that badge, and we're putting in our own. So we're creating the fictitious company name is called Paws and Pets and Paws, or something like that. And so the object is going to be to use this template, create a logo badge, and then to create a business card from that. And that's what I'm actually going to go over in class today, how to create the business card. We already created the badge, but I'm going to go through that lecture again and videotape it, so or put it on video, put it on YouTube, so that if you need to go back to this and reference it, you can. Okay, so the object of the game is going to be to create a logo badge, and then secondly, to apply it to a business card. Okay, with that, let's get started. And the first thing I like to do always is I like to show you what the final result is going to be so that you can kind of put this in perspective and you can see where we're going with this. So I'm going to show you a front side of a business card and the back side of a business card. And the logo is on the front side. So, and then we'll start in with the logo. Okay, so let me share my screen. And let's go to the final result here. And I've got this up in preview. Okay, so this is what the front side of the business card is going to look like. It's got a dark background. The logo here was taken from the Illustrator logo badge template that we downloaded from Graphic Pair. And then we inserted our own company name, Pets and Paws, and then we also underneath this put the byline of pet shelter and rescue. Okay, now this is you are going to be creating a logo for your company, your pet shelter, and I already picked the name for you, so you know what name your company is. And you're going to follow the Milanote creative brief for all of the information that's to come. So this is going to be a project, like I said, that goes on for, till the remaining, the end of the semester. Okay, so here is the front side of the business card, and the business card measures 3.5 inches by 2 inches deep. And we'll talk about setting that up in Photoshop, and I'll actually be doing that today in class. And then the back side of this card is going to look something like this. This is the layout. We're going to have the word Pets and Paws, Pet Shelter and Rescue, and then we're going to have these little icons that talk about, the information that would be on this business card. Now, right now, I have the same icon used for each one, and obviously these would be different. So the email would be like an envelope. This would be like a phone icon, and then this would be like people or something. I don't know, a little icon of a person's head or something. About who the contact people are, who the owners of this company are. So we have email, website, two phone numbers, and then the principal owners of the company. Used to be, all depending on what your company is. Sometimes you'll have a street address, city, state, and zip code, and that type of thing. If you have a brick and mortar store, if you have a physical facility or office building that people need to know what the address is, you would put that here. And in this case, for a pet shelter, yeah, you would probably have a street address. So maybe there's a fourth one. that tells you what the street address is. Okay, we'll talk about how to construct this later, but this is what we're aiming towards. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is we have to create the logo. And so that's where I'm going to start. Okay, now what we did in the logo is we went to our browser, and I'm just going to go type in graphic pair. And we got our template from this site here called Graphic Pair. Now again, in order to download any of the mockups from this site, you're going to have to create a register your name and email address for this site. Now it doesn't cost anything, so it's not a fee that you have to pay, but you do have to register. And so I've already registered, and so it says welcome jcowa@blackcollege.edu. That's my email that I'm using. Yours, if you're doing this for the first time, it'll say sign in or it'll say register. Okay, so if you already have a sign in, you'll just sign in. If you haven't done anything and you're registering for the first time, just click register, and then it'll have you fill out a short form. It'll send a confirmation email to you to make sure that that's who you are, and then you'll select that and you'll be able to sign in with a username and password. Okay, so just like any of these other internet sites, that's kind of the procedure. Once you're in and once it recognizes you, then you're going to go over here to vectors. And when you click on vectors, you're going to see these vector templates that they offer you. Some you have to pay for and some are free. And the only way that you're going to know is by clicking on them and seeing if it is indeed a free download. So this is the one that I used right here, the multi-purpose vector badge, and I clicked on the arrow here, and sure enough it is a free download. Okay, so when you click on free download, it will download to your computer. And what you're going to do, it downloads as a zip file, so you can see it downloading here as a zip file. And I'm going to pull this zip file out and stick it on my desktop. And I'm going to double click on this zip file to open up the folder. And when you open up the folder, you're going to see the actual template here. Okay. And once you have this template, you're going to double click on the template, and that will launch Adobe Illustrator. The AI here stands for Adobe Illustrator, so it tells you what program this was designed in. Now basically what these templates are Illustrator files that other artists have created. Maybe an artist created this and sold it to Graphic Pair, to be distributed and royalty free, without. And so what Graphic Pair does is they offer this template. This is an Illustrator file, and you're able to go into this once you bring this into Illustrator. You're able to go into it and modify any of these templates here. And they have a lot of good places, templates to start. If you wanted to do a badge or a patch, you can start here, and then you can go in and take out a lot of the text and images and put your own in. And that's exactly what we did. Okay, so now that we've downloaded this, I'm going to hide my browser here because we don't need any of that. And I'm going to double click on this badge here. Here's another, this is a JPEG of the badge template. Now you can't get in there and do anything to a JPEG. It's the Illustrator file we want to launch. So we'll double click on that, and that will launch Adobe Illustrator. Now it says that there are missing fonts in this template, and it's Calistoga regular. So in other words, it does not recognize this type font. My computer is not recognizing this type font in these badges. And that's common because when other people design badges, they might use typefaces that you don't have. So it's giving you a warning, and it's showing you in pink what fonts are not recognized. Now, you can replace fonts with something else, which we are going to do, but for now, we really don't care because, we're going to put in our own fonts anyway. So I'm going to just close this out. But just to let you know that that's what this pink means, is that it's a font that's not being recognized. Okay, now just to give you an idea, since we really haven't talked too much about Illustrator, the program, it's very similar to InDesign. The interface looks very similar. You have off to the side here, you have panels here. You can also set up your workspace in Essentials, Essentials Classic, Typography, whatever. You have icons here, so if you want to go to Layers, you have your Layers panel here. You have your gradient panel here, swatches. It looks a little bit different than InDesign, but it's pretty much the same format. And Photoshop is kind of patterned the same way. Another thing too that you'll see is, I'm going to move this down here, is the toolbar. And the toolbar looks very similar to InDesign and Photoshop. You have all of your tools here, your text tool, your selection tool, and so forth. Okay, so it shouldn't be too difficult for you to navigate around Illustrator since you know a little bit about InDesign. I'm going to do Command or Control 0 to get this to fill the screen here. Okay, so we're going to use this template here, and all of these badges are all grouped together, meaning all of the individual elements inside of this artwork are all kind of grouped as one. And so we have to ungroup it in order to get to the individual pieces of this. There's a background here of dark blue, and if I kind of move that, you can see that background. Okay, and so Command Z that. So what I want to do is I want to ungroup all of this. And the first thing I want to do is lock this background. Okay, so I'm going to go over to Layers here, and I'm going to spin down the layers of this particular template. And you can see that there are several layers in this template. And each logo has its own grouping of objects. This is the blue background here, the one that says rectangle. And so we're going to lock that. We're going to lock that so that we can't accidentally move it. See, I'm trying to move it now and I can't move it. All right. So now what I'm going to do is just kind of with the selection tool, I'm going to marquee select this badge and select everything. It's all grouped together. So now what I want to do is ungroup it. And I'm going to go up here to Object and I'm going to go Ungroup. Okay, and when I click that, it doesn't look like anything happened, but now when I click on these things, you can see that the individual, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see that all of these individual pieces can now be selected. That can be moved, that can be moved. Okay, this can be moved, and so forth. Okay, now if I didn't ungroup it, if I clicked on any of these objects, everything would move together. So that's the difference between something that's grouped and something that's not. Okay, so now that we have this, I'm hitting my space bar and I'm just kind of centering this around. I'm going to get rid of all the things that we don't need. Now we don't need this shovel, so I'm going to select that and hit delete on my keyboard. We don't need these little stars. We don't need these things there, so we're going to leave this blank. Now instead of Farm for Life, it's going to say Pets and Paws. So I'm going to get my selection tool, my text tool, and I'm going to come into, just click anywhere in this, and I'm going to triple click, 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 so that it highlights. And then I'm going to type in, pets, in all caps, pets, and then we use the ampersand, which is Shift 7 on your keyboard, pets and paws. Okay. Now, one thing we have to do is change the typeface, and we're going to use the typeface Chunk 5. It's called Chunk 5. And that's a font that we downloaded from DeFont, and we put in our font book, in our font system folder. And so, just to do that real quick, we can go to our, we can go to our browser, and we can go to dafont.com, DAFONT.com, and we can search for, here under the search, we can search for Chunk 5, okay? And here's the typeface that we're going to use. So we're going to download this. I'm not going to download it because I already have it. And then we're going to insert, drag and drop it into Font Book. Now, we already did that in class, so you should know how to load fonts. Okay, and that's the font we're going to use. And once we do that, it's going to be recognized in all of the Adobe programs, Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, whatever. So now that I have the right wording here, I'm going to choose the typeface. Now over here in the character palette, we can see the typeface. Now you can see the name of the typeface here. Also up here, you have the character palette. So you can do it here or you can do it here, either way. Okay, I like to do it here because it has all the type parameters, tracking, leading, so forth, kerning. Okay, so I'm going to change that. After it's highlighted, I'm going to change this to Chunk 5. Okay, so I'm going to come down to Chunk 5. And you notice when you roll over these things, you can immediately see what they look like. So if you don't know exactly what typeface you want, this is a good way to kind of experiment and see, what style you like. I'm going to use Chunk 5, so I select that. And then I'm going to come over and tighten up the spacing between this, and that is going to be tracking. So I'm going to come over to the tracking parameter here, and I'm going to give it, let's say minus 25 tracking. Okay, and that tightens up the letters, the space between the letters. And then I'm going to make this, instead of 10.57, I'm just going to make this a nice even, I'm not sure what I used, 13 or 12. I might have used 13. Actually, I'm going to go down to 12 because 13 looks too big. Okay, so that's done, and I'll click off. Okay, so we have our pets and paws. Then I'm going to come down to the original Heritage Farmer, and I like the typeface that this is. This is, I believe it's called Roboto or something. Let me check and see. I'm going to double click on that. And yeah, I think this is a typeface called, and the Macs recognize this typeface, Roboto slab serif. Okay, Roboto slab serif, and that's the typeface we're going to use. So I'll click on that, and I want to highlight this, so I'll triple click on this or double click on it, and I'm going to make this, I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to call this Pet Shelter and Rescue. Pet Shelter and, with the ampersand, Rescue. Okay, Pet Shelter and Rescue. And I'm going to make this typeface, let me highlight it. Okay, make sure I highlight it. And then I'm going to come up and make this about, 8 points is fine. So this is 8 points, and this is up here 12 points. This 8-point text here, because it's so small, is, I'm going to highlight this again, and instead of, okay, there's no tracking in this, which is fine. I might even open up the tracking to 5 points. You see what happens when I roll over? it spaces out the letters so you can kind of get an idea of how this works. That's what I really like about Illustrator, is that it really helps you out. You know, if you want to tighten letters up, you can just roll over these and see the effect immediately. I'm going to go to +5 on this. 5 points of tracking, click off. I'm going to take a look at this and okay, so I like this. Now all I have to do is put the dog in here. All right, so let's deal with the dog. Okay, let me pause this and I'll be right back. I'm going to stop sharing here. Let me pause the video and let me get set up for that, and we'll talk about how we do the dog. Okay, so hold on one sec and I'll be right back. Okay, here we are again. All right, so let's talk about how we're going to get the dog knocked out and put into this logo. Okay, so let me share my screen again. And this time I'm in a browser. I'm going to go to Google search, and this time I'm going to search for dog and cat logo. I'm going to go up to images so I can see all of the images of dog and cat logos, and there's lots of them. The one I used was this one here, okay, this little pink one. Now I think we used a different one in class. It really doesn't matter for this exercise, but get one, you know, like this is fine. You know, the dog and the cat inside of the dog silhouette. Any of these will really work, but I use this one. So I'm going to click on this one. And we'll see it come up over here. And what I want to do is download it to my desktop. So with this, if you're on a PC, you'll just right click on this and you'll see Save Image As. If you're on a Mac, you're going to hit Control, the Control key, and then you're going to click and hold, and you're going to see Save Image As. Okay, and we can see that it's a 1000 by 1000 pixel image. That's the resolution of this, and that's fine because we're going to use it small anyway. So I'm going to come down to Save Image As, and I'm going to let go. It's going to say, okay, here's the name of the image. This is the desktop. Where do you want to save it to? I'm going to save it to the desktop. Okay, so I'm going to click Save. And I should see it appear on my desktop. And there it is. Okay, so now I have this image on my desktop, and what I want to do is bring it into Photoshop because I need to modify this. So the best way to do it is just to bring it into Photoshop. First of all, let me close this out. And I'm going to bring this over into Photoshop. Just drop it on the Photoshop icon in the dock. And there we have it. Okay, so there's a few things that we need to do with this. Number one, we need to take out the background. We need to delete the background and make it transparent. So everything that's white is going to be transparent, meaning nothing. Nothing's going to be there. And then everything that's red, oh, we're also going to get the heart out of here. Everything that's red, or this magenta color here, we're going to make white. Okay, so we're going to have white against transparency, and so it's going to look like nothing, but when we bring it into this Illustrator file, you're going to see that it works. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is crop this. We don't need all this white space around here anyway, so let's crop it. I'm in Photoshop right now, and I'm going to get the crop tool, and I'm just going to crop this down. I'm going to grab this handle and bring this in. Okay, you don't have to crop it too tight. There's also some text here that we're going to crop out. And then let's bring this up here. Okay. And then I'm going to just hit the Enter or Return key on my keyboard and crop all the excess stuff out. Okay, now this is a background layer, and what we want to do is make it transparent, make the white transparent, and we cannot do that with a lock background layer. So we're going to have to turn this background layer into a fully editable layer. And I think I went over this in class when we did the sky for the Lake George retouch. I'm going to double click on this background layer here, click, and I'm going to just make this a new layer. Okay, now we can name it, but you don't really have to. We'll just say OK. And so now this is a layer. Notice no lock here. And now we can go in and eliminate the background. So I'm going to get on the magic wand tool, and that's the fourth tool down here. You can see when I click and hold, I have 3 tools in this set. I'm going to grab the magic wand tool, and your tolerance here, I think by default it's set up at 32, and that's fine. 32 ought to be fine. The tolerance is basically when you select something, if it's not all selecting, maybe your tolerance is too low, so you have to up your tolerance to grab more value in pixels, because the magic wand tool selects based on the value of the pixel, meaning the tone, the lightness or darkness of that pixel. And you notice that we have extreme contrast here. We have white pixels and we have burgundy pixels or red pixels. And so if I click on the white, it's going to be easy for Photoshop to select just those pixels because it's so different in value with the red. So when I click on this white, you can see it selected all of the white. And when I hit my delete key, you can see that it eliminated all of that background. Okay, and that's exactly what I want. So now I'm going to deselect Command D or Control D on a PC. And now I'm going to select just the heart because I don't want that. So I'm going to select the heart, just click on it with the magic wand tool. Okay, and I'll just hit the delete key and just get rid of that. I'll hit Command or Control D to deselect that. So now I have everything that I want in this. Now it's just a matter of selecting the red and changing it to the color white. All right, so I'll use that same magic wand tool and just click on the red and it selects all the red. And now I want to fill this selection with white. Well, here's my fill right here. I have foreground fill and background fill. And we talked about, you can fill the foreground color or the background color. And it's either going to be Command Delete or Control Delete on a PC and Alt Delete or Option Delete on a Mac. Command and Option on a Mac is the same as Control and Alt on a PC. So, and I always forget which one it is. I'm going to do Command Delete. Notice how my 2 colors right here are orange and white. Now you can always change these colors, right? You can select the foreground color and you can make that color anything you want. And click OK, and that will be the foreground color. But anyway, I have white here already, so it's either Command Delete. Let's see, Command Delete is filling with the background color. Control Delete or Option Delete, I'm sorry, is filling with the foreground color. Or on a PC, it would be Alt Delete. Okay, so watch. If I do Option Delete, it fills with the foreground color. Command Delete fills with the background color. So that's, if you don't know which one it is, just try them both and you'll figure it out. And if you don't have the color that you need here, go ahead and click on this and then choose the color you want to fill it with. Okay, so now I've got this done exactly the way I want. I'm going to do Command D to deselect the marching ants. And I'm going to get back on my move tool. So now you can see I have this white dog with the silhouetted cat in here and a transparent background, right? There's nothing in the background. So I'm all ready to now bring this in to Illustrator. Okay. And it's, what you might want to do though is save this file out in case you needed it again. Okay. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to export this out. And I'm going to export it out as a PNG, which preserves transparency. Okay. Export as PNG. I'm going to export it out. I'll export it out to the desktop, but I want to call this dog and cat white. Okay, so this is my dog and cat white version. So I know that it's the Photoshop version, where I knocked out the background. And I'm going to save it to the desktop. So when I click save, it should save to the desktop. And there it is. So this was the original that I downloaded from the internet, and this is the version now that I modified in Photoshop. Don't need these really. So let me just grab this and put it up here. Actually, I don't need the zip file anymore. So I will delete the zip file. Just get that out of the way. Okay. So now I'm kind of done with Photoshop. I'm going to hide Photoshop, and I'm going to open up Illustrator again. So let's go back to our template, or Illustrator template. Which is right there. I'm going to grab this PNG from my desktop, and all I'm going to do is click and drag it into Illustrator and drop it. And there it is. Okay, now it's way big. So let me Command 0 so that you can see the whole template there. And you can see this. Let me get on my selection tool. You can see my dog right here. Okay. And I'm going to hold the Shift key down in Illustrator and proportionally scale this down small. Kind of place it in there. Now, anytime you're working this small, always zoom in now. Okay, now is where we want to zoom in, kind of check out how big this wants. And this can be bigger. I would get this as big as possible in this template. So I'm holding the Shift key down again. This time I'm going to grab this and drag this up. Okay, so it fits inside of this. There. Actually, that might be a little bit too big, so let me make this a little bit smaller there. Okay, something like that. All right, so that's done now. So I've got my logo badge, and what I did was I used an Illustrator template, and all I did was swap out the type and brought in another graphic, and now, and what I told everybody in class is that why go through the trouble of making these circles and coloring them gold and doing all of this work when you can just use a template and go from there. Now, if I wanted to change any of the color of any of these things right here, it's just as simple as clicking on it. Okay, I clicked on the outer circle there, and then going and filling it here with a different color. So I can fill this with, green if I want. All right. So you can make your modifications in, let me undo that. You can make your modifications in Illustrator as well as, before you do anything. We're going to end up bringing this whole image back into Photoshop and create the business card. Okay, so now that we have this, let me back out here. We don't really need all of these other logos, and we also ungrouped this logo, so we need to regroup this logo again. Okay, because right now all of these individual pieces here, can be mistakenly moved, and we don't want to do that. I just do Command Z to undo that. So because we have this locked, this background locked, all we have to do is just kind of marquee select this whole logo. And remember, we went to Object Ungroup. Now we're going to go to Object Group. Okay, and now we're going to group all of this together. So now when I move any one thing, everything moves. Okay, so I can't accidentally, move pieces in this. All right, so this is actually ready to drag and drop into Photoshop because I've already, revised this. So now we're going to set up the business card document. And the business card document is going to be in Photoshop. So let me get that set up. Okay, so now we have I just collapsed Illustrator down into the dock here. Okay, so now we're going to open up Photoshop. And I'm going to start with two files. I'm going to create one file for the front of the card, the business card, and the second file for the back of the business card. So I'm going to go up here to File, and I'm going to create a new file. And it's going to be in inches. And I want this file to be 3.5 because that's the standard size of a business card. Okay, 3.5 inches wide by 2 inches in height. Okay, and we're going to use the landscape orientation. I'm also going to make this 300 pixels per inch because we're going to print this. Not us. I mean, we're not going to print it. But anytime you're doing a business card, I mean, the chances are you're going to print it. You're never going to do a business card just to show digitally. So you might have to send it out to a printing company that will print business cards. And I'll tell you about a printing company that I really like that's very cheap, and you can get like 500, 1,000 cards for, 30, 40 bucks. So anyway, full color. Anyway, but let's set this up. So 3.5 by 2, 300 pixels per inch, RGB color space is fine. The background color I want to be black. Now, normally the background color is white by default, I think. So I'm going to change this to black. And click Create, and it's going to create a business card. Now, if you're doing a lot of business cards, you might want to create a template that would show up here. And that way, every time you want to do a business card, you just click the template and it brings out that size already preset. So you can see I already made a business card template with a black background. So instead of having to go through and do all this stuff, when I set up a new document, I just click that, and it sets up all the parameters for me. See, here's the clipboard. Okay, so now I just click business card and it automatically sets up my preset. Okay, I'm going to create that, and there is my business card. Okay, now my rulers are still in pixels, you can see. And so if you want your rulers in inches, just come up to the ruler and either right click on a PC or control click on a Mac and change the ruler increments to inches. And you can see now this is 0 and 3.5. Okay, this is 0 here and 2 inches. Okay, and if you want to make it bigger, just do Command 0 or Control 0 and it goes up full screen. I don't like it full screen a lot of times. I like to kind of back off of it a little bit. So, that's fine. I just demagnified it one click. And I like to see some of the edges here. Okay, now, a good thing to do would be to save this file as business card front. And then you're going to go up and create another new file and make this the same thing and create it, and you're going to call it business card back, front and back. Okay, I'm not going to do this because I already have this done over here. Okay, I already made this, and so here is my business card front file. And what I did was I went to my Illustrator file. Oops, not the preview. I went to my Illustrator file and I just took this illustration and I brought it in and dragged and dropped it right there in Photoshop. And now in Photoshop, you can center this and, you know, remember in Photoshop, if you want to proportionally scale, you don't have to hold any modifier key down. You just grab a corner and it automatically proportionally scales this. Larger, smaller, whatever. Okay. And that's all the front of the business card is going to be. It's just going to be this. All the other information is going to be on the back. Okay, so we're pretty much done with this. Now I already put the graphic in, so let me delete this layer that I just created. I mean, just this logo that I brought in. I'm going to delete this because I have one here. Okay, and that's the size I wanted. I pre-sized this to what I want. Okay, so this business card is done. I'm going to save it, you know, file, save. Okay, and now we have a graphic, a piece of art that we could send to a printing company, because what they're going to require is both a front and back of the business card. You're going to have to upload it to their website. I'll show you how to do all of that, but basically you have to do this first and create the card. Okay, the next thing is we're going to create the back of the card. So I opened up another file and we're going to put all of the graphics now on this. Now I've already done that, so instead of creating it now, I'm just going to start activating these layers so that you can see what I did. Okay, the first thing I did was my layout, as you can see from the example here, when I showed you this example, you can see that the back card looks like, the back of the card is going to look like this. We're going to have Pets and Paws in chunk 5 in orange, and we're going to have, you know, Pet Shelter. We're going to have a line here, and then we're going to have these icons with other text in here. And so if I start activating this layer, here's the Pets and Paws that I typed in. Then underneath that was Pet Shelter and Rescue. And then I had a vertical rule that I put down here. And then I started creating all of these icons. And then I set the text. And this one and this one. Okay, and that becomes the end of the now what I also did was, with this, I also made the opacity 25%. So you can see that the text and these icons here are all kicked back 25%. Meaning that if I click on one of these icons here, you can see opacity is 25% here. If I brought this up to 100, it's going to get completely white. So if I select all of these layers, okay, see how they're all 25%? If I brought them all up to full white, you can see that. I think that vibrates too much. It's too bright. So what I did was I kicked it back a little bit by knocking down the opacity to 25%. But I did keep the Pet Shelter and Rescue white, because I want the eye to go here first, and then the eye can go here. There's lots of negative space around this design, so it's airy and it looks neat and clean. And remember, neat and clean is one of the things that they liked, and that was on the Milanote creative brief. You know, they want this clean and neat look. Now I'm using slab serif typefaces here. Something that's similar to the logo that we did. I'm sorry. This. So it has that same feel. Okay, we're using the same typefaces. And that creates a lot of consistency, and that makes things work graphically when you have good consistency. So when you see the front and you see the back, you say, yeah, that works, you know, because the typefaces are the same. Okay, so I wanted to make this video so that you can see how, now we're going to actually do this in class today. And so I'm kind of making this a little premature, but at least you have something to reference now. So if you get lost in class today, you can always go back to this video. Okay, now these icons here, you might be asking, well, where do you get these icons? And so let me just slip down to Google again. And what I did in Google is I searched for white icons. And so if you go to Google again, and I typed in white icons, and I went to images, okay, you come up with all of these kind of pages here. And what I did was I clicked on one of these pages, and I think this might have been the page I clicked on. I looked for an envelope for, you know, email, and you know, they have like Facebook icons and Twitter icons and Instagram icons and so forth. So you can use these. And what I did was I brought this into Photoshop, and I kind of cropped out just the one that I wanted to use. And then I dragged that in to, you know, I drag that into the Photoshop file. So if you notice my Photoshop file here, I went here and you can see that this is the logo that I use, but this came from this. So I brought this sheet into Photoshop, I opened it up, and then I cropped just that part. Okay, this is the, I don't know, it's in here somewhere, the envelope. Can't find it right now, but that envelope is in here. And what I did was I cropped it, and then I selected it. When I crop it, it crops everything out. And then I selected it, and then I took this and I dragged it in to this file here. And you can see how I did that, where I'm going to take this cropping, pull this out, and then I'm going to just drag this and drag it in here. And so now you see I have that. And then I can do Command T and just reduce this down in size and place this here. And then reduce the opacity. Okay, so let me delete that. So with this, you can see kind of what I did. Let me just show you that. Oh, no, I pulled it out. There it is. I'm going to stick it back in here. Okay, so here it is. Let me go back to history. Okay, this is the original. Okay, so let me just do that and show you how I did it. So let's say I wanted this little chicken head. Actually, I need a phone for telephone. So here's the phone right here. So I went to the crop tool, and then I just cropped in right to the phone icon that I wanted. Grab that and drag this down. Let me just kind of isolate this so that you can see what I'm cropping. Okay. I'm going to zoom in here now so that we can see this. And I cropped in just inside of this so it'll be square. I'm looking at the corners there, right? See, I want the corners to be square here. Okay, so that looks good. And then I'm going to hit return and crop everything out. Okay, so that's all I have. All right. Excuse me. I'm going to select this. I'm going to select it with the, I want the magic wand. I mean I want the marching ants around this. So I'm going to select all, which is Command A or Control A on a PC, and you can see the marching ants go all around. I'm going to pull this out of the tab. I'm going to go to my business card, get my move tool, and I'm going to take this phone and bring this, drag it right on top of there. Okay. So now I have this. Let me zoom into this card here. And I'm going to Command T or transform, Control T on a PC. Okay. And that gives us the handles. And then all I'm going to do is just reduce this down in size until it's about the same size as this guy here. Okay, let me just put it right on top of this. Okay. Now I don't need, I'll hit return to set that. I don't need this one here, so I'll select this one. That's that layer, and I'll delete it because I don't need that layer. I'm going to put this one here. Okay, now you can label these layers. In fact, what I might do is just kind of double click on this and call this the phone icon. Click on this one and call this the email icon. Okay. And then I would need one for people. Okay, now with this selected, I'm going to bring this down to 25% opacity. Okay, so now I have these two. Now this one looks actually a little bit bigger than what I need. So let me just kind of make this a little bit smaller until it looks the same. I'm going to have to come up here and just really tweak this here. Make sure that the width of this is the same. Okay, that looks good. I'll bring this down here. See how these little lines here tell you that it's centered in here, or it lines up with the bottom of this, right? That's the one thing I like about Photoshop. It really makes it easy for you to kind of align things. Okay, so I hit return or enter, and that sets there, so that's fine. And then all I would have to do now is just kind of find one for Barbara Anderson, and so I'll go back to my original cropped version. Okay, and I'm going to stick this back in the dock, so it's here. I'm going to go to my history, and I'm going to go to open, so I get everything back. See that? That's the beauty of history. I can use that, crop it out, move it into another file, and then come back to the original and go back and get my entire sheet. So now I need a picture of, a person or people, Barbara and Steven Anderson, and it doesn't look like I have a face here. So that might be something that I would consider, in choosing this particular sheet, that there was a picture of people on here, but maybe I can use something else. Anyway, I might look for something else that indicates people, the owners or something. It could be something generic, and then use that and crop it and bring it in. So that would be you know, something that I did to finish this off. But that kind of gives you an idea of all of this. Okay, so that's my back side of the card. Here's what the front side of my card, and I'm all done. I would save this now, and I would have two files, two Photoshop files. Or if the site, and the site that I'm going to show you for a printing business card is a site called gotprint.com, and they do accept Photoshop files. In fact, they give you the Photoshop template for the business card. You download that template, and then you just place this in their template, and everything's fine. Then, you know, once you use their template, they print it fine. But this would work too. But their template is going to have a bleed on it because they're going to have to trim these cards out. So your background is going to have to be actually wider and taller by, you know, 1/8 of an inch or so to accommodate the trim so that it trims right. And I'll explain all of that to you when I talk about gotprint.com. Okay, so that is basically what we did the other day in class in creating the badge logo, and now how we're implementing it into a business card. As far as the layout is concerned, how I chose that particular layout, well, let me just show you, okay? Because you might be asking, well, how did I get this particular layout here? How did I know that, you know, that's what I wanted to do to the front, and that's what I wanted to do to the back? Now, I've seen many, many layouts in my career, you know, just umpteen business cards I've designed, I don't know how many. So I kind of know from experience different layouts. But like I was saying the other day, if you don't know what to do, if you don't know where to start, Pinterest is a great place to start. So let's go over to Pinterest here. I'm going to pull up my browser. And, you know, it looks like let me go back to Pinterest here and see if I can find my recent tab here. Actually, I'll just go to Pinterest. Okay, so I'm in Pinterest here, and I'm going to search for business card design. Okay. And I'm going to get all these different designs of business cards, you know. And like I said, you do not have to, by any stretch, feel like you can't copy layouts. Layouts are not copyrightable. So if you like the look of this, use it. See the fainted background? I was thinking of doing that too with this. But anyway, I kind of scrolled down and I saw a layout that looked like this, okay? And I used it, okay, for this demo. I wanted to show you how you can be inspired by what you see here and then go and end up using it like this for your design, right? Is there any, you know, specific reason why we can't use that? No, we can use that. Now you can do something different, but if you did something different, what I always kind of warn you about is that know what you're doing, okay? Because if you don't know what you're doing and you just want to be different and want to be creative and unique, it could be a disaster in terms of negative space, positive space. I mean, look for things that work well, that are clean, that are organized, and learn that way. It's kind of like, you know, I play music, as you can see behind me. And the thing is that if you're learning music, if you're starting to play an instrument or whatever, listen to other music and copy other people's songs, okay? Learn that way so that at least you know how to play this song rather than starting out and trying to write your own music and your own notes and stuff. It's disaster. Okay, it's going to be terrible. Because you don't know the structure of music. You don't know, chord structures and what notes go with each other. Same is true in design. Okay, we all start off by copying other people's work. Okay, now there's nothing wrong with that term copying because that's how we learn. We learn by emulating other people's work, whether it's dance, music, graphic design. Any creative person has always looked to other people. How many people have learned to dance by watching Michael Jackson dance, right? So, that's how we learn. Don't be afraid to do that. And then once you have experience, once you start getting it, then you can go and say, you know what? I like this, but I want to change this a little bit, but it still works. It's still, it's still a good piece of design. Okay, so that is all that I have, and I'm going to upload and post this video to the Canvas page, and I'm going to open up a Canvas page called Logo Badge Design and Business Card or something like that, and you'll be able to reference this video there. Okay, with that, I'm going to sign off, and I will see you in class this afternoon. Okay, take care.